Have you ever noticed that strange, slightly chemical tang at the back of your throat when you bite into a fresh, juicy British strawberry, or that bizarre, greasy residue left on your fingers after you've peeled a couple of oranges for the kids? You probably just rinsed them under the kitchen tap, assumed it was a bit of natural dust or standard supermarket wax, and carried on making dinner, right? We all do it. We have been conditioned to think that if a product is sitting on a brightly lit shelf in Tesco, Sainsbury's, or Marks & Spencer, wrapped in shiny plastic with a nice little Union Jack on the front, it must be perfectly safe. We assume someone, somewhere, has checked it. But what if I told you that the innocent-looking salad or the humble bag of baking potatoes you bought this week is actually a tiny legal chemical dump site? What if that healthy habit of eating your 5 a day is quietly introducing a cocktail of industrial toxins into your body? Substances specifically banned across the channel because they are linked to fertility issues, hormonal chaos, and even cancer. You aren't being paranoid. You've just been systematically lied to by a multi-million-pound system that relies on you staying completely clueless. In this video, we are going to blow the lid off the British supermarket supply chain. You'll find out exactly which 14 chemicals are currently clinging to your fresh produce completely legally, despite being banned across Europe. I'll show you the exact laboratory data and investigative reports that prove how a single, traditional Sunday roast can carry a terrifying cocktail of over 100 different pesticides. We'll break down the 9 most toxic offenders sitting on your kitchen counters right now, and by the end, I'll give you a concrete, bulletproof strategy to completely purge this rubbish from your diet without draining your bank account. Make sure you stay tuned until the very end, because the #1 item on our list isn't even sprayed on your fruit. It's hidden inside an everyday staple you eat every single morning. And the truth behind it will genuinely change how you look at your bread bin forever, before we name and shame the specific brands and supermarket giants letting this slide. We need to understand how the modern produce industry actually works behind the scenes. Think of a modern commercial farm not as a quaint, idyllic piece of the British countryside, but as an aggressive, high-tech manufacturing plant. In an ideal world, growing fruit and veg should be like maintaining a vintage sports car. It requires care, clean fuel, and natural balance. But the mass-market food industry treats your food like a cheap hire car that they need to thrash for maximum mileage at the absolute lowest cost. To keep those supermarket shelves permanently stuffed with perfectly uniform, unblemished apples and pristine carrots, corporate agriculture relies on an invisible chemical scaffolding. They use a massive cocktail of synthetic substances categorized as fungicides, herbicides, and insecticides. The problem isn't just the presence of a single chemical. It's how these substances interact inside your body. Imagine pouring 5 different brands of premium engine oil, windshield wash, and brake fluid into your morning coffee. Individually, they might pass a basic lab safety test for handling, but combined, they create a toxic sludge. The food industry loves to test each pesticide in complete isolation, declaring it safe in tiny, microscopic quantities. But when you sit down for dinner, you aren't eating one isolated chemical. You're eating a chemical soup. A single strawberry can be sprayed dozens of times throughout its brief life, building up invisible layers of residue that nothing can wash off. The industry uses a clever legal loophole called maximum residue limits, which essentially acts as a financial shield for large-scale growers, allowing them to drench crops right up to the legal threshold, completely ignoring the long-term cumulative effect on human health. What makes this situation uniquely frustrating for us in the UK is the sudden, silent divergence in safety standards that happened right under our noses. Since we left the European regulatory umbrella, our domestic pesticide approval system has turned into a massive waiting room for toxic corporate favors. While European regulators have been actively tightening their laws, leaning heavily into the precautionary principle, which dictates that if a chemical shows even a hint of serious danger to human health or wildlife, you pull it off the market immediately. The UK system has done the exact opposite. We've rolled over licenses, extended deadlines, and allowed corporate lobbyists to dictate what's acceptable. It's like a school lowering its passing grade just so the lazy kids don't fail, except in this case. The lowered standards mean chemicals linked to human fertility damage and hormone disruption are being sprayed onto food meant for toddlers. And then there's the post-harvest deception. When you see the word treated printed in microscopic font on a net of lemons or a bag of spuds, the supermarkets want you to think it's a gentle, protective spa treatment for the fruit. In reality, it's a desperate cosmetic cover-up. Once fruits are ripped from the trees, they immediately start to die, dry out, and rot. To stop this and preserve that perfect glossy illusion on the shelves of Asda or Morrisons, companies drench the picked produce in synthetic waxes and post-harvest fungicides. It's the agricultural equivalent of slapping a thick layer of cheap gloss paint over rotting wood. They are artificially extending the shelf life of dead food while leaving you to ingest the chemical preservatives used to keep it looking immortal. We've been completely locked out of the loop, treated like cash cows who don't deserve to know the basic ingredients of the fresh food we buy. But the free pass ends today. Let's get straight into the absolute worst offenders sitting on the shelves of your local supermarket right now, counting down from the sneaky to the downright scandalous. We start with number 9, dimethomorph. This is a highly aggressive fungicide that is repeatedly flagged in recent agricultural safety audits, and it is sprayed extensively on the nation's absolute favorite summer treats: fresh strawberries, raspberries, and British onions. If you wander into an Aldi or Lidl during the summer months and pick up one of those incredibly cheap punnets of British berries, you are almost guaranteed to be taking home a dose of this stuff. Dimethomorph is completely banned across the European Union because European scientists classified it as toxic to human reproduction. In plain, unvarnished English, regulators across the channel concluded that this substance can actively damage human fertility. Yet, if you buy standard strawberries from Morrisons or Asda today, it is fully legal for British growers to drench their crops in it. Think about the sheer hypocrisy here. We hand these sweet, bright red fruits to toddlers and pregnant women, thinking we're giving them a healthy, vitamin-packed snack. In reality, according to European safety data, we are handing them fruit coated in a fertility-damaging chemical. The campaign groups tracking this stuff are furious. Investigators at Greenpeace UK have pointed out that our countryside is effectively being drenched in these hidden chemicals, leaving consumers to unknowingly ingest the residues. It's a classic corporate cost-cutting exercise. Use the harshest chemical to keep the fruit from molding in the plastic punnet for an extra 3 days and let the customer absorb the health risks. Moving along the shelf, we hit number 8, benthiovalicarb, and this one goes straight for the literal heart of the Great British Sunday Dinner. This is a powerful systemic fungicide used extensively on British-grown potatoes, the kind you buy by the massive sack at Sainsbury's or Tesco. The reason this chemical was slapped with a total ban in Europe is about as serious as it gets. Following a detailed safety investigation, European authorities pulled it from their fields after it was formally proposed for classification as a carcinogenic, or cancer-causing, substance. Let that sink in for a second. A chemical deemed too dangerous for European farmland because of its links to cancer is completely cleared for use on the humble British spud. Think of a tray of roast potatoes, perfectly crisp, golden, and fluffy in the middle, or the classic jacket potato you feed the kids after school. The potato is our national staple, the ultimate comfort food that underpins millions of family dinners every single week. Yet, the corporate system deems it perfectly acceptable to let our crops be treated with something that European regulators ran away from. It's a massive, gaping double standard that treats British shoppers like second-class citizens, all to ensure that giant corporate suppliers can churn out visually flawless baking potatoes for pennies more in profit. If you think you can just wash this problem away at the kitchen sink, number 7 is going to ruin your day. Metribuzine is a brutal weed killer used heavily by industrial growers on British carrots, parsnips, and potatoes. It is banned in the EU because it has been flagged as a severe endocrine disruptor, a toxic substance that mimics or blocks human hormones, throwing your body's natural chemical messaging system into complete chaos. Here is the nightmare scenario with metribuzine. You cannot scrub it off. When a supermarket puts a glossy wax on an orange, you can at least use some warm water and effort to get it off. But metribuzine is a herbicide applied directly to the earth. These are root vegetables. They grow deep down inside the treated soil itself. As the carrot or potato grows, it literally drinks this chemical through its root system, absorbing it into the very flesh of the vegetable. You can scrub that carrot until your knuckles bleed, but you are not rinsing away a hormone disruptor that has become part of the plant's cellular structure. Official government pesticide data analyzed by environmental groups revealed that British carrots and parsnips are routinely treated with a cocktail of around 40 different pesticides during a single growing season. Onions and leeks can face up to 43. It's an absolute chemical bombardment of the basic ingredients that go into every homemade soup, stew, and Sunday gravy across the UK. If you're already feeling the urge to run to your kitchen cupboard and chuck half your shopping bin into the bin, Smash that subscribe button right now, because the deeper we dig into these supermarket aisles, the harsher the reality gets. Let's talk about number 6, clofentazine, a chemical that lands directly inside your child's school lunchbox. This is an orchard fungicide used on mainstream British apples and pears, as well as soft summer fruits like strawberries. It is completely banned in the EU because of its documented links to hormone disruption and dangerous, long-term environmental accumulation. Think about how we view a classic British Gala or Braeburn apple bought from a multipack at Co-op or Tesco. It is the ultimate symbol of health. We toss it into a lunchbox instead of a chocolate bar, thinking we're being responsible parents. There is something deeply sinister about the fact that the most innocent, everyday fruit in the British household is grown using a chemical pulled from European shelves due to hormonal risks. The industry loves the wholesome apple-a-day image, but the reality in the industrial orchards is a constant cycle of chemical sprays that build up on the skin of fruit we eat whole, without peeling. Next up is number 5, mepanepirum, another nasty fungicide frequently found on UK strawberries. It's banned in Europe for being a proven endocrine disruptor, but what makes mepanepirum truly scandalous is how it exposes the repetitive nature of industrial farming. Corporate farms don't just spray a crop once and walk away. They dose these fragile soft fruits over and over again throughout the entire growing season to prevent a single spot of natural mold. When you look at a standard punnet of strawberries from a budget supermarket, you aren't looking at fruit that received a light, singular misting. You are looking at a product that has been treated layer upon layer, week after week, with substances that other nations decided were far too dangerous to risk. It's a cumulative chemical buildup on a soft fruit that has no skin to peel, no shell to remove, and absolutely nowhere for the chemicals to hide. Then we have number 4, S-metolachlor, a heavy-duty weed killer used widely on industrial pea crops. The exact ones that end up in those massive comforting bags of frozen peas at Iceland, Asda, or Morrisons. This stuff was banned by European regulators because it poses severe risks to wild mammals and, crucially, causes widespread contamination of groundwater. That should make every single person in the UK incredibly uncomfortable. Groundwater isn't some abstract scientific concept. It feeds our rivers, enters our local ecosystems, and eventually finds its way into the water table that supplies our household taps. We love the convenience of frozen peas. They feel wholesome, simple, and pure. But the land those peas are pulled from is being treated with a herbicide that seeps deep into the earth and migrates through the water system. You can peel a potato, but as the saying goes, you cannot peel a river. Let's look at number 3, spirotetramat, an insecticide that regularly turns up on mainstream British carrots. Its approval in Europe was allowed to quietly expire and was intentionally never renewed because scientists proved it is highly toxic to bees, pollinators, and marine life. You might wonder what a bee has to do with a carrot growing underground, but the answer is everything. Without pollinators, the entire British agricultural food chain completely collapses, leading to empty shelves and skyrocketing grocery prices. Instead of banning it outright with huge public announcements, European authorities let the license lapse to quietly protect the environment. What did the UK regulators do? They rolled the license over, kept it fully legal, and let industrial farms keep spraying it. Now we reach number 2, etoxazole, and this is where the sheer corporate audacity of the food industry becomes blindingly obvious. Etoxazole is a chemical used to kill mites on crops like salad tomatoes and aubergines, the kind you buy every week at Waitrose, Marks & Spencer, or Tesco. European safety inspectors looked at the toxicological data for etoxazole and drew an incredibly sharp, uncompromising line. They decreed that it could only be used on ornamental plants. That means you can spray it on garden petunias, decorative roses, and shrubs that go into a flower vase, things absolutely no human being is ever going to put in their mouth. But over here in Great Britain, our regulations allow this exact same chemical to be sprayed directly onto food crops, like tomatoes and aubergines, that wind up sliced into your fresh evening salad. The absolute cheek of it is stunning. A chemical deemed too risky to put anywhere near a European dinner plate is considered perfectly fine for your salad bowl by UK standards. Finally, we hit the number 1 most shocking chemical on our list, ipconazole. This is the ultimate example of the hidden dangers in the British supply chain, because you could inspect every piece of fruit in the supermarket and never find it. Ipconazole isn't sprayed on a crop. It is used as a highly aggressive chemical seed treatment on barley and wheat. This means the very grains that are ground down to create our everyday loaves of bread, our morning toast, our baking flour, and even the weekend pint of beer at the local pub are grown from seeds coated in this toxin. European authorities banned ipraconazole completely because of its severe potential to harm human fertility and cause direct harm to unborn children. Yet, in the UK, it remains fully authorized and actively used by massive grain suppliers. Since 2020, the UK has run its own independent pesticide approval system, completely separate from the European Union. While Europe has consistently tightened its safety thresholds, the UK has silently drifted, extending deadlines and letting toxic field chemicals stay on our food. It is a broken, compromised system that operates entirely in the dark, leaving ordinary British families to consume the consequences every single morning at the breakfast table. And now, what it was worth watching all the way through for. We have spent enough time digging through the corporate mud, looking at the toxic chemical scaffolding keeping standard supermarket produce upright. It is time for the payload, the relief, and the concrete proof that you can absolutely take back control of your kitchen without needing a millionaire's bank account. There are clean, reliable, and accessible alternatives sitting right under your nose in the UK that completely bypass this regulatory mess. Moving away from the chemical-soaked corporate nightmare doesn't mean you have to survive on distilled water and fresh air. It just means shopping with your eyes wide open. We start our breakdown of the good alternatives with the most accessible, budget-friendly option on the market, the supermarket own brand organic lines, specifically Aldi's Nature's Pick Organic and Lidl's Oakland's Organic range. For years, people assumed that going organic was a luxury reserved exclusively for people who spend their weekends driving expensive cars to high-end farm shops. But the budget giants completely flipped the script. These products carry the exact same official Soil Association organic certification as the most expensive boutique brands in the country. This means that by law, the crops are grown without synthetic field sprays, and they are completely free from hidden post-harvest chemical treatments or synthetic waxes. When you pick up a punnet of Aldi or Lidl organic strawberries or a bag of their organic potatoes, the sensory difference is immediate. They don't look like plastic replicas designed for a window display, they look like real food. The carrots actually smell like earth and sweetness when you snap them, and the strawberries possess that deep, juicy, natural red flavor right through to the core, rather than being a watery, chemical-tinged disappointment. Price-wise, this is where the corporate myth falls apart. A standard bag of carrots might cost you around 60 pence, while the organic version in these discount stores usually sits at around £1.20. When you break that down, you are paying an extra 60 pence per weekly shop to completely insulate your family's root vegetables from hormone-disrupting weed killers. It is pennies per serving to buy absolute peace of mind. Independent testing by consumer groups consistently confirms that these budget supermarket organic lines meet every single strict statutory requirement, proving that safety does not have to be a class privilege. The only real downside here is availability. These budget organic lines sell out incredibly fast, meaning you have to get to the store early before the shelves are stripped bare by clued-up shoppers. If you want to step up your game and remove the big supermarkets from the equation entirely, the mid-tier champion is Riverford Organic Farmers. Operating out of their main base in Devon for over 35 years, Riverford is an employee-owned business built on a stubborn, uncompromising philosophy. Look after the soil, and the soil will look after the crop. Everything they grow and deliver is 100% organic, certified by the Soil Association. They have an absolute ironclad ban on air-freighted produce, and about 70% of their massive veg box range is grown right here on British soil. They are completely transparent about their supply chain, meaning you will never find a vague little word like treated hiding on their packaging. The whole home eating a Riverford organic carrot or spud is like taking a time machine back to how vegetables tasted 50 years ago. Their potatoes have that genuine, fluffy, starchy texture that roasts into absolute perfection without absorbing systemic fungicides, and their salad leaves possess a crisp, peppery bite that has never been touched by toxic mite sprays. Cost-wise, it is obviously a step up from the budget supermarkets. A small seasonal organic veg box sits at around £16.50, which breaks down to about £2.30 per item. If you compare that directly to the absolute cheapest, chemically saturated bulk items at Asda, it looks more expensive. But you have to factor in what you are actually paying for. Zero toxic field chemicals, sustainable packaging, fair pay for British farmers, and a direct delivery to your doorstep that cuts out the corporate middleman. Leading agronomists and soil specialists consistently praise Riverford's farming model because it preserves the natural biodiversity of the land instead of killing the bees with industrial insecticides. The minor drawback is that you don't get to handpick every individual item in the seasonal box, so you have to be prepared to cook with whatever the British seasons naturally throw at you that week. Finally, at the premium end of the spectrum, we have Abel & Cole. Established in 1988, this brand is the gold standard for shoppers who want a totally tailored, hyper-reliable organic supply chain. Abel & Cole works hand-in-hand with an extensive network of independent, fairly paid British farmers who view biodiversity as a necessity rather than an optional marketing slogan. Their signature option is the organic all-British veg box, which is a magnificent, zero-pointless plastic celebration of seasonal produce grown exclusively on UK soil. They take things a step further with their innovative Club Zero system, focusing on completely reusable, returnable packaging to minimize environmental impact. Abel & Cole, the quality of Abel & Cole produce is genuinely elite. Their bunched rainbow carrots and fresh summer turnips are clean, vibrant, and packed with natural minerals and vitamins that haven't been washed out by industrial farming acceleration methods. When you use their citrus fruit, you can zest the skin straight into a cake or a Sunday gravy without an ounce of anxiety, because there is no synthetic wax, no insect-derived shellac, and no post-harvest chemical preservation sitting on the peel. Naturally, this premium service comes with a premium price tag. Their specialty boxes can range from £18 to nearly £30, depending on the size and customization. You are paying a premium for hyper-specific curation, a completely transparent supply chain, and the absolute highest tier of ecological verification available in the UK. Veteran organic consumers frequently note in reviews that while it is a financial investment, the extended freshness and superior taste of the food mean they end up throwing away almost zero waste, offsetting the initial checkout cost. It is the ultimate choice for busy households who want to completely automate their escape from the corporate supermarket chemical trap without compromising on domestic culinary standards. Now that you know exactly what is happening behind the scenes on industrial farms and which clean alternatives are waiting on British shelves, it is time to arm you with a practical, bulletproof set of shopping rules. This is the exact information you will want to screenshot or save to your phone before you next walk through the sliding glass doors of a Tesco, Sainsbury's, or Morrisons. By following these simple guidelines, you can effortlessly filter out the chemical rubbish and protect your family's health without blowing your budget. First, learn to decode the microscopic printing on the back of loose citrus nets and potato sacks. If you see the word treated, treat it as an absolute red flag. In the UK, this is the legal cover-all phrase that supermarkets use to hide the fact that a fruit has been doused in post-harvest fungicides like imazalil or layered with bug-derived shiny shellac waxes. Second, look for the words completely unwaxed on your lemons, limes, and oranges, especially if you are a keen baker who likes to grate fresh zest into cakes, dressings, or a Sunday gravy. Buying a waxed lemon means you are grating synthetic preservation chemicals and insect resins straight into your family's dinner. Spending a few extra pennies on an unwaxed line completely eliminates that risk. Third, master the Dirty Dozen protocol by prioritizing your organic budget where it matters most. You do not need to buy everything organic overnight. Instead, focus your cash exclusively on the soft fruits and root vegetables that absorb the most toxins, meaning you should always choose organic when buying strawberries, raspberries, carrots, and baking potatoes. Fourth, take full advantage of the thick-skin defense mechanism of natural produce. Vegetables and fruits with thick, inedible outer layers, like bananas, avocados, pineapples, and standard brown onions, provide a natural physical shield against surface sprays, meaning you can safely buy the standard, non-organic versions of these budget items at Asda or Lidl and save your money. Fifth, give all non-organic root crops a vigorous, heavy-duty scrub with a dedicated vegetable brush under warm running water. While this will not rinse away systemic weed killers that the plant has drawn up through its roots, a proper wash will successfully strip away a massive percentage of the sticky surface residues and cosmetic supermarket waxes. Sixth, completely avoid pre-chopped fruit salad pots and prepared vegetable mixes unless they are specifically labeled organic. These convenience items are frequently processed using bulk, low-grade commercial crops that have been heavily treated to maintain their color and stiffness while sitting on a refrigerated shelf for days on end. Seventh, embrace the power of local sourcing by stepping outside the major supermarket ecosystem altogether. Striking up a conversation at a local independent greengrocer, a community farm shop, or signing up for a weekly seasonal veg box means you can ask the grower directly about their spraying schedules. giving you 10 times more transparencies than a corporate supermarket barcode will ever provide. When you look at the big picture, the entire British food system is currently caught in a massive, high-stakes tug of war. Right now, our government is locked in intense negotiations with the European Union to establish a common agricultural trade area, which could force all 14 of these banned toxic chemicals completely off British crops as early as mid-2027. The only thing standing in the way of that clean food revolution is a massive, multi-million-pound lobbying effort by corporate chemical giants who are terrified of losing an estimated 500 million to 810 million pounds in annual profits. They are aggressively pushing for a loophole called managed alignment, which is just a fancy corporate way of saying they want to keep selling these harmful fertility-damaging and cancer-linked toxins to British farmers for as many years as possible. We have been systematically conditioned to accept visually flawless, chemically immortal food as the norm, but the moment you shift your thinking and realize that a slightly misshapen, organic carrot is infinitely better than a perfectly straight, pesticide-soaked alternative, the marketing illusion completely shatters. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this heavy investigation and taking the time to uncover what is really going on with the food on your plate. If this video opened your eyes even a little bit, please do me one massive favor and smash that hype button right now. Seriously, don't walk away without clicking it, because every single interaction forces the algorithm to push this report into the feeds of more everyday British mums, dads, and grandparents who deserve to know exactly what they are buying at the checkout. Share this with a friend or a family member who buys standard supermarket berries for their little ones every week, because getting ordinary people to refuse to look away is the only real pressure that forces these multi-billion-pound supermarket chains to raise their standards. I want to hear from you down in the comments section. Look inside your kitchen right now and tell me which of these major supermarket brands or standard produce items is sitting in your vegetable drawer at this very moment. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you sort that out immediately, because I have a massive expose coming up next on the hidden industrial chemicals hiding inside standard British washing detergents and household cleaning products. Until next time, stay healthy, stay skeptical, and protect your plate.